Does
Why don't you go do that right now?
Now it's on the stream.
Matt.
Yeah.
Why don't you just call it like stream episode 18 or whatever the next one is, just a single number.
Okay.
I might cut it into like 2 podcast episodes, but there's no reason to make it all weird and janky on the stream titles.
Wait, I'm sorry. What do you want me to do?
What's the current title? Like
just iterate
17, 18 or something?
Yeah.
Just make it the next one like 19. Don't worry about the slashes.
Last one is 17. I'll make it 18.
Sounds good. All right.
Looks like we are streaming.
Okay. Well, we are currently already streaming. So, Matt, are you ready? Did you change the title or whatever?
I did change the title.
Nice. Sounds
it might not have picked it up.
No, it's great. We're perfectly on top of things, apparently.
Yes.
All right.
I can feel it coming in the air.
This is The Dying of the Light, Season 3 of the Starfall Collective. The Starfall Collective is a collaborative storytelling group using the Dungeons & Dragons game system as well as an increasingly large bolt-on as a vehicle for creating rich and compelling stories in a fictional world that we've been developing together for a while. You can find out more about the collective as well as the stories that we're telling at thestarfallcollective.com. We are back with streaming episode 18. Let's find out who's in this episode. I am Sir Robert Burbridge, a father, entrepreneur, and friend of my friend, and I am the host of this season's story. With me tonight are a few friends playing the characters in this drama. Please say your names. We'll start with you, Matt. Something about yourself, if you like, and a brief description of the character you're playing.
Yeah, my name is Matthew Talamini. I am a writer and web developer based in Providence, Rhode Island, and you can find my stuff on MatthewTalamini.com. That is Matthew, TALAMINI.com. I play the shirtless wizard, Diamondback.
Shirtless indeed. And Jared?
I'm Jared. I'm playing Yoshka, who is a gypsy without his wagon, a musician without his violin, and a wanderer without his wandering grounds.
All right. Belvari.
Hey, I play Belvari, who is a nondescript 16-year-old druid, and he whispers a lot. Just imagine that anything I say of his is whispered. Oh, and tonight I am sponsored by the France-Switzerland football game that I watched this afternoon, which was just astonishing. So you should watch that if you get a chance.
Great. And Josh.
I am not Josh, I am Thor, god of thunder, and I too am shirtless. I believe Matthew McConaughey and Mel Gibson have my shirts. If you see them, tell them to give them back, or they shall feel my wrath. And the puny mortal whose body I inhabit. Josh is playing God, an orc tonight. I look forward to seeing the ways in which he will fail fantastically.
Great.
And, I have a question, Josh. Did you just start to say spectacularly and end on fantastically? So
do not me, mortal, or I shall call Mjolnir from the skies, and I shall smite you with thunder and lightning.
Fantastic. It's like he's wearing
fantastically.
My real name is actually Thor, but I have a terrible lisp, and I always say Thor. Do not mock my speech impediments.
Makes my brain sore.
All right. So, let's... Thank you. Let's get into the action here. That was great, everybody. So, we're going to give a recap and get into the story here. Let me set the mood first. For the past couple of episodes, we have been in this wood. It's daytime. It's not raining anymore. It rained for about a day. And they stumbled upon something like a sacred glen, it turns out, of some dryads. Everything was uneventful. The dryads at first seemed not to mind as they walked through the road. However, Belvari, it turned out, was, instead of being on the road, was trying to stay inconspicuous and out of sight, away from danger. And it looks like maybe was trespassing in what they considered to be trespassing. Belvari was charmed by the magic of one of the dryads and taken off, and the party, the remaining party, does not know what happened to Belvari. He went off and did something. You, the viewer, do have some idea of what happened, perhaps, if you've been watching. The remaining party on the road had a set of non-verbal communications, hopefully with the dryads, and that led to some understandings or misunderstandings or something that resulted ultimately in some violence. The party got split when the dryads encircled Yoshka, Gulb, and Davina with a dangerous barrier. Sorry, not Yoshka. Diamondback, Gulb, and Davina with a dangerous barrier. Yeah. Yoshka was somehow on the other side of the barrier and unable to interact with his friends.
He fled.
Due to incredible cowardice on his part, he fled, abandoning his party.
Unsure of what to do, he stood frozen for a couple of rounds, trying to see if there's anything he could do, but he couldn't think of anything to do, apparently. And he ended up continuing on his way to northward on the road. Diamondback, Gulb, and Davina were inside. They had a series of magical exchanges with the dryads who had enclosed them in this dangerous space. When Diamondback and Gulb were magically put to sleep, Davina woke up Gulb, who, sensing the extreme danger, did his best to get Davina safe. And unfortunately, Diamondback and Gulb do not know the fate of Davina after Gulb was able to emancipate her from their sort of makeshift magical prison. So we don't know what's the party as such does not know what's happening with Belvari. The party as such does not know what's happening with Yoshka. The party as such does not know what's happening with Davina, and the party as such does not know what is happening with Diamondback and Gulb. What we are going to do...
Party knows nothing.
That's right. You
it's
know
like
nothing.
The Communist Party.
If only you had the help of my friend Heimdall. His all-seeing eye could have shed a great deal of wisdom on this situation.
So we are going to approach this in the same fashion. We're going to pull Belvari into a separate room. We're going to see what happens with him a little bit. We're going to come back and work with Diamondback and Gulb in a separate room. And then we're going to come back and in a separate room work with Jared, with Yoshka. And that will take us, I'm guessing, about half an hour. If that is grossly wrong, I will edit that in post. And then we'll figure out what to do from there, depending on how things lie. So from here, Gulb and Diamondback, Matt and Josh, if y'all just want to hang out here, or I don't know, read a book or write a book or something. Belvari and I are going to head into the DM chat room, and there we go.
I am here.
All right. Let me make the scene a little less trippy.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get a more specific, a more audience-ready articulation of what was happening with Belvari. So, because the audience already... Say it again?
Who's forgotten all of this?
That's right. So we're going to pick up actually right before Belvari steps through the portal that was made for him, the teleportation circle.
Okay.
So just to give everybody a quick recap, Belvari was ushered by his new enchanting friend, this dryad matron, into the woods a little further. She summoned a creature, and a pangolin came waddling up. She had a brief exchange with it, and it left in a different direction, and a light started shining a few moments later from behind the trees, some trees somewhere, and out stepped a large, majestic, and perhaps even surreal unicorn. Unicorns have a very special role in this world, which we may discover more of as time goes on. They are a very different creature, and one of the things that's really different about them is that they emit a light of their own. And it was a kind of light that Belvari has never seen before, and had anyone else seen it, they probably would not have seen it either. They would not have had seen one. Yeah. So basically, this light seems to almost dispel the misty darkness, the magical mist of the forest, and create this bright white light. Unicorns can speak every language, and came and acted as a sort of intermediary between the dryad and Belvari, noting that the dryad, in fact, seemed to defer significantly to the unicorn as her greater. Belvari was given a magical component from the unicorn's mane, which he was instructed to immediately use to take on the form of a unicorn after the unicorn left. He did so. One thing to note is that before the unicorn left, Belvari asked him an additional question, and almost as an afterthought, the unicorn used the tip of his horn and etched something into Belvari's side, kind of a little bit behind his, on his side, a little behind his pectoral muscle, where it's hard for Belvari to see it. He might feel some agitation, but he's got this little scar in the shape of something he can't really see. And finally, the dryad created a magical portal, a teleportation circle, a misty, swirly tunnel to somewhere, and instructed Belvari in a friendly way. We know you didn't mean us harm, but it's time to go in. And just before doing that, cast a spell on Belvari called Alter Memory. And this was the condition that was put on it. You will remember nothing of this. You and your friends just had a pleasant walk to your destination. And you will have no recollection whatsoever of the grove, the dryads, the unicorn, any of that, until such a time as the magic of the forest cannot affect you. And then it will not be suppressing your memory anymore, if that ever were to occur. Okay, Belvari, are you ready?
Yep.
So you've just finished this instruction, you've just received this, and your memory has been given the trigger that after you walk through this portal, you'll arrive on the other side remembering nothing except a pleasant walk in the woods. What do you do?
Gotcha. You also mentioned that someone stuck something in my component pouch right before.
That's right.
I walked through also.
Right as you're about to step in, the dryad slipped something into your component pouch, but too briefly for you to notice, and it was right as your evanescent memory was departing from you.
Gotcha. So is my mental awareness like, oh, wait, where did the party go? Is that kind of what I would sense?
That's kind of up to you to reconcile. It'll be jarring for Belvari. He could think that he just lost sight of them for a moment. He can think whatever. Mm-hmm. He might not even notice the jarringness until something happens, till he sees them on the other side, something like that. So you just play it however it makes sense to you, however you think Belvari would play that.
I would just keep following the road, stealthing, and every once in a while I kind of try to tell where the party is. So.
Well, let's get into it. So you step in. Is that what happens next? You're stepping in and she plants the thing.
Yeah.
All right. There's a long tunnel. It seems too long for the sphere of mist that you're in. The sphere is about 15 feet, but the tunnel seems like it's closer to 100 feet long. And you walk down it on firm footing. Doesn't seem scary, but it is alien. And there's a light at the distance of this dark, misty tunnel. And as you walk towards it, it gets closer and closer to you. It's almost as though you're emerging from a tunnel through a mountain or something like that. You emerge, you step through on the other side, and you can't see what's on the other side of the light, but you step out, and you find yourself suddenly, no longer in the mist. There's no mist anywhere around you. You're standing on packed earth in the center of a circle, just like the one that the original sphere of mist was created in. So it has the same intricate design around the edge. It's about 10 feet wide. But there's no portal left. You're standing in it. Here's what you see around you. Immediately surrounding you is something like wooden or bamboo, some kind of thing like that, has made a kind of, not a crate, not a jail, not a cell, but just a container. This circle that you're standing in has been contained by almost woven walls that you can see through. The squares that you can see through are a good 6 or 8 inches. You can see well. Your dog followed with you. So you depending on what you think, you might feel that you could be alarmed or you could be confused, but you're basically standing in the woods in some kind of little jail cell type of container.
Gotcha. Does it look handmade or naturally, supernaturally grown?
Yeah, probably handmade. And let me explain further. Just past you, in front of you, is the road a road, looks like the road, the forest looks like the same forest. And only a good 30 feet in front of you, excuse me, you see what your mind struggles a little bit to grasp. It appears to be a giant basket. But as you kind of look at it a bit more, what you realize is it's actually the wall of a town that seems to be out of woven reeds and vines and all that sort of thing. And it's very large, like for a basket. And it's got a big hole in it. That's what tips you off that it's a town. You can see in the hole. The hole's about 10 feet, 15 feet wide. And inside there are houses and other sorts of things. This woven wall bulges out from the center and forms this apparently thick protective barrier for the town. It's not a huge town. You can see that it's the shape of the curvature of this basket, as it were, the city wall, town wall that's a basket. Probably holds a dozen or so homes, not and they're not mansions. So you see that directly in front of you. As soon as you step through, give or take a few seconds, there is a person sitting in a chair, leaning against the entrance to the town, who suddenly stands up and turns behind him and shouts, "Visitor, we got a visitor," to someone.
Gotcha.
Do you want to do anything right now?
So is there a way out of this?
You can investigate if you want. You can roll me an investigation check.
Yeah, let's do that. Try to see what my options are, hopefully away from the town. I got a 6.
Okay. It seems to be very secure. It's lashed very thoroughly. There is one part that appears to be extra reinforced, but looks like a door, and it faces directly towards the town. So,
Gotcha.
That seems to be a part where one could get out. You don't see any way of opening it readily.
Right. And then there's nowhere to hide in this, right? It's
No.
kind of open and small.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
So at this time, you've been inspecting it for a few seconds, 5 or 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and basically this short character, this halfling, kind of he's pudgy and older looking. He's got a beard and he's got, whitish hair streaked through with white and brown. And he waddles out quickly to you, coming out of the entrance of this town. Town is a generous word, right? Like I said, it's maybe a dozen houses, a little hamlet. And he waddles out quickly and says, "Ho there, ho there, ho there. How are you? How are you?"
Melvari whispers, I'm okay.
"Oh, it looks like you've met our friends, the Dryads."
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
The tree? The grove?
All I know is I was walking along the road, and I guess sort of I was here. It's hard to say.
Strange indeed. Well, I will tell you, welcome. This is our friendly town of Miradau. You are welcome to come, and we love to have visitors. We love to have travelers. Anyone who's willing to trade or help out. Would you like to come to our town? Now you don't have any ill intent towards us.
I don't have any ill intent, but I do know there's a lot of ill intent out there.
Well, of course, but I imagined you wouldn't have any ill intent because the dry. Well, our friends. I guess you don't know anything about them, but they wouldn't send anyone to our town who would hurt us. So please, he grabs a couple. He has a component pouch, and he grabs a couple little things out of it, rubs them in his hand, and blows them at the door. And the door, the sort of woodenish door that you can see through, has this shimmering set of patterns and glyphs that kind of swirl and shimmer with light and then flicker and fade away. And the door kind of, as though some kind of lock was released, it just sort of swings a couple of inches as though, falling open. And he opens the door and he says, "Please, would you like to come in? And we would definitely give you something to eat and, hear all about your travels."
So just a little bit of background. Belvari is extremely skeptical of towns.
Sure. He doesn't know that, this guy.
But he did. Yeah, that guy doesn't know it. He's also not likely to share to a townsperson that he's skeptical of the town.
Yeah, right. You can roll, if you would like to, you can roll a... it's not intuition, it's insight check to if you're interested in trying to see if you trust this guy, like if he seems on the up and up or maybe he's being deceptive or something like that. That'd be typically what you would roll, insight.
Yeah, so he would be like, this guy's probably trying to either pull something over on me or he's an idiot who has had something pull over on him and pull me in. That's kind of where Belvari stands on towns.
Yeah.
Let's see if he is a little better at that. A 17 to insight.
Okay. This halfling who is far shorter than you seems to be genuine about his good-naturedness. He's bumbling a little bit, which he doesn't. Yeah. He's not acting like a smooth con person. I suppose theoretically that could be an act. The guard, who is a young man, maybe about your age, 16 to 20. When I say guard, the guy sitting in the chair, leaning against the door, who said, "We've got a visitor." He has just returned to sitting and is, doing something inconspicuous, just fiddling with whatever he was fiddling with. Nobody seems to be paying you much mind. That said, excuse me. He has the guy in front of you has opened the door. Do you want to step out or anything?
Yeah, Belvari will step out. He is constantly calculating. He's willing to go into the town, but he is always looking for he wants a way out.
Okay.
In case somebody shows up to take the town.
Okay. So you step out, and he he says, "Well, welcome," and he's dressed with a, he's got a leather coat on. And it's a little baggy on him, and he's, like I said, he's a portly little fellow. You step out. He pushes the door to, grabs another set of components out of his hand, and is just about to start talking with you when a swirl of mist in the center of the hovering about 8 feet off the ground, and in the center of the circle, the teleportation circle, a bit of mist starts swirling, and he says, "Oh my!" And he interrupts himself from talking to you, crushes the magic in the components in his hand again, and basically the door seems to kind of push shut, hold still, shimmers with those same symbols and little arcane shapes and intricacies. And he says, looks like someone else is coming, another visitor. All right. Belvari, so you now are talking to this halfling and you're right outside this sort of, not cage, that's a little rough for what this seems to be.
Gotcha.
But you're right outside of it. He has just reshut it, and something's happening in the teleportation circle. And I'm going to go pop over to Gulb and Diamondback.
Gotcha.
Why don't you hang out here? Is that all right?
Yeah, just real quick.
Yep.
Belvari would probably move to where he couldn't be seen from the cage.
Okay, roll me a stealth check.
There it is. He moves up against the cage. I got a 6.
Okay, and the way we're going to roll that is whatever comes into this cage next, if anything does, they're going to roll as a contested check of their perception to see whether or not they could see you. So if they roll lower than a 6, they won't.
Gotcha.
And if they tie, you win. But if they win, they win.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I'll talk to you in a few minutes.
Yep.
Check back in. Oh, and Sir joined us. Look at that. Such timing.
Hey. You rang. So, Jared, I've got another, let's say, couple of minutes here. I'm going to do Diamondback and Gulb. If you're willing to pop into the DM chat and hang out with Dwight there,
Sure.
Don't let him. I don't know that he would, but if he starts to tell you, "Oh, you'll never guess what just happened," just say, "No."
Okay. Cool.
Hey, Matthew. Oh, are we? It's just us.
It's just us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we're going to pick up with Diamondback and Gulb. So when last we met, the Diamondback had cast Comprehend Languages. He heard 2 of the dryads who were standing on top of the razor wall, the wall of thorns, muttering something about thorns and walls. So here's what happened for any of you listeners who would like to be reminded. For those of you who wouldn't, plug your ears and shout. The dryads put this razor wall around Diamondback, Gulb, and Davina. Having been put to sleep, Diamondback and Gulb were awakened by Davina, who was not affected by the sleep spell. She was far away. She woke up Gulb, who, seeing her immediate peril, wanted to save her and heaved her over this wall of razor-sharp thorns to get her a chance to flee, perhaps because he also knows that she has a great affection for Yoshka, and Yoshka's on the other side of the wall, right? So, he's helping her out that way. Diamondback and Gulb, having done that, do not have any idea what happened with Davina, so we're going to leave her narrative for now. Continuing with Diamondback and Gulb, the 2 of them did not discover any good way out of the Wall of Thorns, but the Dryads came, and one of them ended up creating a magic circle about 10 feet wide on the ground, and a globe, sort of a snow globe. It's really a mist globe. In that, a 15-foot approximately radius globe resting on that circle that had a tunnel in it. Diamondback, being able to comprehend their languages, heard the heard the Dryad say in her own language, "Enter," with regard to this this globe. The globe had a tunnel, and though the misty globe was about oh, 15 feet wide. The tunnel seemed to stretch on 60, maybe 100 feet into the distance. A black swirling mist vortex with a light at the far end. Diamondback and Gulb decided that the best way to give Davina a fighting chance is not to fight here with the Dryads, but to comply with their wishes. So hand in hand, they decided to stride into the great unknown and figure out what's on the other side. Would either of you like to say? We're going to pick up with you guys just about to step through. Would you like to say anything about this before we go?
Yeah, if I can back up literally 30 seconds, Gulb, as he's got Davina in his arms and he's about to throw her over, he just looks at her and says,
Make good choices, Aranka.
and then throws her.
Mm-hmm.
So Aranka is the word for the person who's basically in line to take over the war party or the tribe or something. So he's basically calling her, hey, guess what? You've got my promotion, but your tribe is over there. So you're being promoted to chief of the party over there. Great. So he throws her. So
now we'll pick up with Davina's story when it's time to pick up with Davina's story. That's not this story. And, you know, I learned from someone wise that a good DM tells each one his own story, child. But to give you what happened with the parting, remember, is that Gulb is attempting to heave Davina over this wall. The wall's 10 feet tall. He doesn't know how thick. He stands about 10 feet away from it. He has to make this throw. And he has a racial characteristic that lets him throw really far. And just to say, the rules for D&D allow for a good throw that goes from 20 to 60 feet of a thrown weapon. And so we set a difficulty for this based on those things, and that's how that went. If you remember back, we'll pick up Davina's story in a little bit, but I wanted to give that extra info since Josh brought us back to that moment. Okay, so Davina is across the wall. He did not just throw her into the wall. He managed to get her over. Let's fast forward back to where we are narratively. There is this sphere. You are ready to move. Any last things before we go through this tunnel?
Yes, Matthew has a spell upon him.
Yeah, he mentioned it.
Okay. Aside from that, Gulb and Diamondback both have their weapons drawn in one hand and are holding on to each other, clasped forearm to forearm so they don't get separated.
Okay.
Yeah, Diamondback's got his shield strapped to one arm.
Mm-hmm. And
so Gulb is holding up his hammer, and he's literally trying to be as close to Diamondback as possible so that they, present as little vulnerable area as possible. So he'd like to go through with the dodge action if he can take the dodge action as his standard action round over round.
Which is to say with full readiness to evade threat.
Yeah, so a +2 to AC.
Yep.
So,
And just to I'm going to tell y'all, I'm going to be making some decisions, you all audience, and you too. Your passive perception is 12 Diamondback and 15 Gulb, which I'll be using to see what you see, to tell you what you see. So you step in and you find that you are standing on firm footing. As you take a few steps forward, you are definitely in a dark in the sense of black swirling mist is fully creating this tunnel around you. You don't see anything through it, like up above the tunnel. There's no like forest or anything. You're just in a black tunnel. Behind you is the wall of thorns diminishing. Ahead of you is this light that it could be daylight or whatever. But it's maybe 100 feet. You step by step walk towards it. At some point, you find yourself exactly in the middle. And again, there's nothing around you except this swirl of mist. You're not sure what you're standing on, but it does feel firm. And you certainly have walked further than the distance to the other edge of this wall of thorns. So you're going somewhere else, your intuition tells you. You continue walking, and you make it to this brightness on the other side. You can't clearly discern anything, but the color of it is it's normally bright. It's not like strangely bright or anything, and it's dappled yellows and greens. You want to walk on through?
How's the temperature?
No meaningful difference. It's cooler in the tunnel, but no meaningful difference. Like, it feels just like where you left. It's not burning hot or freezing cold or anything like that.
I continue on through.
Okay. Gulb, you
Yeah.
do? Okay.
One of the two of them would have to stop in order for them to cease to move together.
So you step through this shimmering light. It's hard for you to put detail to it before you step through, but once you do step through, you find almost immediately all of this mistiness sort of evaporates, sublimates away from you, and you are in the woods. What you notice, you notice three things immediately, like really immediately. So let me say all three of them before you. It's really important to get all three. First, you are standing in the center of a circle on the ground that looks like the one you went through over there in the prior place. It's more permanently fixed. It's not vines that have grown up. It's got it looks like it may be etched into the sort of ground stone in some way. There aren't any symbols in it, but it's got ornate drawings, 10 feet wide, almost identical. It's meaninglessly different as far as you can tell. Around you, an extra couple of feet on each side of the circle, all the way around you, is something that looks like it could be saplings, or maybe like mature saplings, or maybe bamboo or something that forms a kind of crate or cage or something all the way around you, with approximately 1 foot squares that you can see through. It's clearly not a jail. I mean, it's not meant to like hold a hardened criminal, but it is a barrier that completely encompasses this circle, right? Directly in front of you is a part of this barrier, this crate cage thing that looks like a door that is on grassy or vine hinges. Nothing strong, but strong enough that you wouldn't be able to just like grab it and pull it. You'd have to work at it for a while. And to your surprise, and sorry, hold on just a second. Hey, Belvari, are you here? Belvari?
Yep, I'm here.
Will you come into the other room?
Yep. Sure thing.
To your surprise, you see a somewhat pudgy halfling wearing a slightly ill-fitting leatherish coat, who's sort of chortling to himself. well, two in a day, and standing off in the distance, not too far away, maybe 6 or 8 feet away, you see some motion that catches your eye, and you see Belvari slip behind a couple of trees, but it's very clearly him behind the trees. He is not inside this cage or crate with you. Belvari, you see out of this foggy mist that's there, there's no tunnel that you can see, it's just a foggy sphere. It suddenly dissipates, and standing there at full readiness are Diamondback and Gulb. The halfling, who's a little portly, says, well, hello there. Welcome to the town of Miradow.
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 How should I spell that?
Miradow.
Yes, well, we don't. This is quite a busy day. We don't usually get so many. And as you say that, a young man, maybe 16, 20 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood, who has been sitting in a chair, leaning back against. Oh, I'm sorry, and I should have said the third thing that you see. There is a boy sitting, leaning against what appears to be a giant basket. And I mean a giant basket, like a huge basket.
Like the one that we're in?
No, it's sort of similar, except you can't see through it at all.
Okay.
It's about 20 feet away from you. And suddenly...
Inside or outside of the cage?
Outside of the cage. The cage is about 15 feet wide.
Okay.
There's a road from you to this giant basket. And suddenly you realize the basket has a hole in it. Like a very well-tended hole. It's not like a burned hole. It's like a made hole. Mm-hmm. The basket stands a good 12 feet tall and possibly a couple hundred feet around. It's a big, huge basket bulging in the center. And you realize it's not a basket at all. It appears to be a thickly woven city wall. It's made of vine and flexible shoots and other kinds of things like that. And through the hole, you can see maybe a dozen hamlet-level houses with some, thatch roof. They're not opulent by any means, but they're, a nice little hamlet. You appear to be about 10 feet outside, about 20 feet outside, 30 feet outside of this town, across the road, in a little cage surrounding this circle on the ground. This portly halfling says to you, welcome to the town of Mirrodau. And this appears to be the town he's referring to.
Is he inside of the cage?
He is not. He's just on the outside of the door. And Belvari, as I said, you see him, you catch a glimpse of him moving into some trees. Your passive perception was high enough, so.
Okay.
Belvari sidles up to the cage and he whispers to the guys inside, something really weird is going on here, but I think this guy is trustworthy. And he looks around.
And the halfling man sort of chortles a little bit. It's not quite clear exactly what is happening, like whether he heard you exactly or not, but he's sort of chortling, and he always seems to be sort of chortling.
Can Gulb react, or is there?
Yeah,
is
go
it
for
that?
it. Say things.
I think Gulb would, hearing that from Belvari, look at Diamondback and give him a well. And as he's putting away his own weapon and tucking it away and looking at him,
Diamondback goes ahead and no, you know what? The shield is still on. He turns toward. Well, first thing, while he's taking this in, his manner of taking it in is like a half crouch, shield up, does a full 360 to look all the way around. So I'm assuming that Diamondback's full 360 environment scan doesn't reveal anything beyond what you've just described.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, there's forest.
Right.
So I think Gulb would look at him and say, "Who is there to fight?"
And as y'all are doing that, and as Diamondback is turning and examining, this this halfling who seems amiable says, "Well, okay, well, gosh, would you men like to come in?" And he eyes Gulb, who is, compared to this halfling, Gulb is enormous. And yeah, and he says, "Well, I was just about to ask you our normal question. Do you have any ill intent towards us? Now, you seem to know this young man," and he indicates towards Belvari and says, "But he says you didn't. I don't know. It's very strange. You met our dryad friends, did you not?"
There was disagreement and misunderstanding. It was unfortunate. We were trying to leave peacefully.
Oh, I'm sure they wouldn't have sent you on to us if you meant any harm. They're terrific. They're terrific. Well, I see you've put your weapons away, and I'm not concerned that you're going to hurt us. If the dryads trust you, we trust you. And then he takes several steps back, and
Marty edges over to the halfling and whispers, These two are very loud, just as a note.
And the halfling chortles, but in addition to that, sort of bounces a little bit, jiggles and chortles.
I think Gulb starts laughing really loud,
Okay.
like disturbingly loud. Like his huge lungs are just. He's about to hack up a lung.
So
Um,
go ahead, Matt. Diamondback.
so here's, I mean, when Diamondback gets a chance to do or say anything.
Anytime, yeah, it's fine. Well, let me tell you what
Okay.
he did, what he continues to do, and before he actually does it, I'll let you say what you're going to say. A part of that, he reaches into a component pouch, pulls out some random looking things that components, and as he does so, he says, could I invite you fine folks in for a bit of lunch? Would you like to come have some tea with us?" And he has these components in his hand, which he's about to use. Go ahead and say what you'd like to say.
I Diamondback is like shaking his head, like this is going too fast for him. He approaches the man and he says, "We were waylaid by plant creatures, bandits, I believe, possibly murderous, and transported here against our will."
Oh, I say, it sounds like our friends, the Dryads, are your friends too. They saved you. I'm sorry to hear about your terrible encounter. Well, and he crushes the components, and you see shimmering all around the door, especially, and around the cage in general, little shimmering.
When he starts casting a spell, Diamondback's shield goes up and he starts backing away, and his sling is in his hand.
Cool. The everything shimmers, and especially around the door part, and then all of the little glowing glyphs and symbols and everything sort of poof and evaporate into nothing. They weren't anything. They were little shimmering lights. And the door, which had been firmly closed, sort of falls a few inches and kind of creaks as though it is now no longer pressed shut. And the halfling man walks, more waddles on stiff, chubby legs up and grabs hold of the door and opens it up and says, "Come, come."
I think Gulb turns to Diamondback and he steps out. And as Diamondback steps out, Gulb kind of steps up to him.
Diamondback does not step out of the cage.
Okay. If that's even better. Gulb goes to leave and he sees Diamondback rooted in place and he walks back over to him and says,
Sometimes when the warrior comes back after too much time outside of the village, it is hard to remember. But you must remember how to sleep around other people and not the dangers of the forest. This is good for us, friend. We will stay together and stay vigilant.
And the halfling reaches up and slaps Gulb's big calf and says, "Well, we've got some deer and some jerky, and I think there's a stew cooking." And he seems to not really be paying attention to what you're saying, but he's ready to.
I think if he says the word stew, Gulb's head jerks and he starts to move in that direction.
Gatekeeper, I have a question for you.
He doesn't pay any attention to you. He's just saying, "So come on, let's go."
Okay, Diamondback begins...
Sorry, I should say, he doesn't pay no attention to you. He just doesn't respond to innkeeper.
Gatekeeper.
Oh, you said gate. You say gatekeeper to him.
That's what I said to him.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Gatekeeper, I have questions.
Oh, he kind of pivots around on his sort of stiff, portly legs and says, "Great. Well, come on. Let's ask your questions. I've got to close this gate in case any more visitors come. You don't want to be in there if more visitors come. Not everyone's as friendly as you all."
That's fine. I stay where I am. And I say to him, there is a village that I visited previously. And in that place, they were friendly with an organization known as the Iron Bell. Tell me about this town's relationship with the Iron Bell.
We certainly will. Let's go up and have some stew. We'll tell you everything. We'll hear about your travels. You'll hear about our town. Let's go. And he's swinging the door, ready for you to come out so he can close it.
Stew.
Diamondback
Stew.
Gulb is saying the word stew at progressively louder intervals at Diamondback.
Diamondback is a wizard. He turns away from this person who's not answering his question. He turns his back. He puts himself in between the gatekeeper and what he thinks is a teleportation ring. And he begins to take the 1 minute that it requires to copy down and memorize a teleportation gate's sigil.
Okay.
And if he thinks that he will not be seen to be doing so, he'll copy that sigil into his spell book, which is hidden. And not having heard about this town's relationship to the Iron Bell and the relationship to writing, he's going to try and keep it secret. That if I think that I can't get away with copying down the sigil without being seen to be writing, then I won't do it. But I will try to memorize it.
Roll a perception check. No. Give me an insight check.
Cool.
And
Gulb has a pretty high wisdom and is, actively trying to be in tune with Diamondback. How would that work for me to read that situation and go, he needs a distraction now. And I just grab the halfling and say, let's go.
You said 23?
23 insight, yeah.
You think that he's not paying attention to you.
The halfling?
He's not caring what you're doing.
Okay, cool. Then I am also both memorizing and copying down the teleportation sigil to the teleportation ring that brought me here.
And can I make a perception or insight check to read that is what he is doing?
Sure.
Okay.
Insight.
Which one should I do?
Let's do
insight.
Insight, yeah.
Okay. Come on, baby. Come on. Yeah. 21.
Yeah, you have a sense of something like that. You're not super familiar with the ways of writing, but you get the kind of gist, and you know Diamondback somewhat now.
I can see his eyes. I can see that he's studying something, trying to accomplish something. So I turn to the halfling and I say,
I have learned sometimes children come in for supper when they're very hungry. Let us go. I am very hungry, and I'm a big baby.
And he picks up the halfling and puts him on his shoulder and starts walking in the direction that the halfling was pulling him.
And the halfling, who's holding onto the door and has been making a big deal out of needing to close the door, jumps down and says, well, I can see he's more comfortable where he is. And he closes the door, puts more components, and you see a shimmering force around the cage again. And the door kind of pushes shut. And he says, we'll come back for you when you're ready, young man. And is ready to waddle with Gulb and Belvari, if Belvari would like, into the town to have some stew.
Cool.
All right.
I think Gulb turns to look at Belvari. He goes to try to pick up the guy, and he looks over at Belvari. What does Belvari do when he locks eyes with Gulb trying to do this?
You're muted, Belvari.
Uh-oh. Dwight.
Belvari is looking askance. There's no eye locking that would happen.
Okay.
I'm looking for a deadlock eyes and just a shaking of the head. No, just a stone cold. Sorry.
So,
all right.
Belvari's not doing that.
Why don't y'all work out? I'm going to go to Jared now,
okay.
to Yoshka, and y'all can talk about how you'd like the next bit in your scenario to go forward.
Sure.
Matt, you seem to be inside studying this thing, which I don't know whether you noticed or not that he seems to have closed and locked behind him. Belvari and Gulb are outside, and Gulb seems to be ready to go into the town. The town is very close to you, and it's midday right now. It's late morning, so. All right, I'll be back in a minute. Hey, Jared. Are you there? Jared?
Hey, sir.
Hey, there you are. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, for our listening audience, thanks for your patience, Jared.
Yeah.
For our
And hey,
yeah,
I wasn't meaning it's a waste of my time.
no, I didn't hear that at all. I totally get it. It's just
Okay.
sitting in a chair waiting for 25 minutes is not fun. 30, 40 minutes, I don't know how long
Cool.
it's been. Yeah. So,
So no disrespect, man. I'm sorry if that was
no, none taken whatsoever. I know you. You're great.
okay.
It didn't even occur to me. Okay. So for our listening audience, Yoshka, having seen this wall of thorns come up around Gulb and Diamondback and Davina, bolts northward and is fleeing this grove of creatures. Yoshka, we're going to pick up with you. We encountered you the least last time. You weren't in combat. You weren't doing anything. You were just trying to get everybody to go north. The whole time, you've basically had a sense that we, the party, were intruding in some sacred place and just wanted to get everybody to leave. When it seems like they couldn't anymore and you didn't know what was going on with Belvari, you yourself left rather than continue intruding with seemingly no fruit.
Yeah. So one thing, just a little bit of feedback. I didn't know about the whole tree walking thing.
Mm-hmm.
So my experience of the story was like, there are these people that just walk out of trees.
Okay.
So I didn't know how many of them there were, and unless my character is familiar with these, if they're like common around here, just from me having experienced the story, my character's kind of poetic interpretation of this is that the forest has swallowed my friends.
Okay. Hey, roll me a history and arcana check, each of those, and I just want to see what Yoshka would know about these guys.
Okay.
And tree walking and whatever.
Arcana 17.
Okay.
History 5.
Okay. You're definitely well aware that something magical was happening, and it's a thing you've never really heard of before. You don't know what was going on exactly. It was strange. It was very magical. It was, at first, very sort of holy, sacred kind of feeling. Something crazy happened. Things seemed to turn in some way that was unpleasant. You tried to prevent Diamondback from interfering or hurting these tree forest creatures.
Mm-hmm.
But you're very disoriented and don't know what's happening. To your perception, you have not seen them. The swallow your friends is a good way to say it, because you actually have not seen any of these forest things hurt any of you. They just, have been watching you mostly. And then when Diamondback shot magic missiles at them, they built a wall. But that's all you know. That's the end of your ability to know anything. Right?
Okay.
So you're going north. It is right in the neighborhood of about, it's late morning, 10, 11 o'clock. It's a normal day, as you can see the scene that, the kind of forest wood scene that you've got around you. And based on your expectations, you're expecting that you're 6 or 8 hours from, not 6 or 8, probably 4 to 6 hours from the town that you think is ahead. What do you want to do?
Well, Yoshka thinks his friends are dead.
Mm-hmm.
So he has more emotion than he knows what to do with. He's gonna run at a probably unsustainable pace until he starts to get kind of tired.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's still not feeling better. Maybe that's what my constitution is 12, so half
15
an
minutes, 30
hour
minutes, yeah.
or okay.
Yeah, something like that.
And then once I've kind of worn out some of that, he just will keep walking along, and eventually he notices he's still pretty shaken. So,
So before you say anything further on that,
yeah,
so you'll have traveled at a very fast pace, bolting through the forest for half an hour, and then you've slowed down to like a walk, and you're kind of shaky, and you've overexerted, and you're emotional and all that.
yeah.
Roll me, if you will, actually, you know what? I'm going to use your passive perception, just what you would have kind of noticed, which is 11. Sounds good. Are you paying any attention to the forest around you? When you slow down, you start walking.
I guess within half an hour, he would probably. I'm trying to imagine him because people aren't always strategic, and
Yeah, of course.
But
at some point, you've started walking, and so your attention's
yeah,
not like far away; it's right around you.
Probably once he started walking, he has not full alertness, but definitely more than when he was just running. So he sometimes looks around and.
Okay, in that case, roll me, if you will, an investigation check.
Sounds about right. 5.
Okay. Let's see. 5. You are here and there, not anything meaningful especially, but here and there you get a sense of almost like deja vu, like familiarity almost, but you don't know with what. You're just like something's like familiar a little bit to you, but it's fleeting, and you are still emotionally distraught and so forth.
Okay. Well, kind of lurking in his mind has been like he's been on the lookout before all this happened. He was on the lookout for like places that he recognized because the air was getting colder.
That's right.
And he started feeling like he could take his hat off again.
Mm-hmm.
And he started feeling a little bit more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Now with all this, it's hard for me to quantify exactly how long it takes for him to just kind of like finish his first pass of grieving.
Yeah, sure.
Probably what I was imagining him doing is he would probably need to do one more thing before he's like can really be present, which is there's this old song.
Okay.
That it was actually the first one he learned, and then also the first one he made. It was a song that was taught to him by his extended wayfaring family. And he really liked it, and he sang it a lot. And those were some of the first glimmers of him being one of the more musical ones of the extended family, the gypsy group. And then
the Wayfarers.
Yeah. And then as he got a little bit older, he slightly rewrote it. And it's a song that he never sings to anybody else, and is kind of like a charm bracelet.
Okay, yeah.
Of a song. Like it has all these old memories and smells and scenes attached to it that he sings through.
Yeah, I have some of those. Okay.
So, yeah.
And so maybe he is singing it to himself. Maybe he doesn't even realize he's sung it 10 or 12 times already, because he's kind of repeating it through, soothing himself, as it were.
Yeah.
It is now early afternoon. You've been doing this you ran for half an hour. You've been walking for, an hour or two. It's normal woods. I'm going to roll for your encounter. Oh, nothing eventful. It's daytime. It's not a scary, it's not night. It's not whatever. I mean, it's scary in as much as it's the woods and you just had a crazy experience, but you don't sense any pursuit. You don't sense any, the forest isn't being weird here. The types of trees around you are not the same kind as you were in when the forest seemed to come alive or whatever. Roll me. Are you calmer now? At least a bit? Okay. Roll me another investigation check as you're looking around. It's just as you're walking and trying to figure things out.
Mm-hmm. $19.
Oh, a really high one. So, two things happen. One, that sense of familiarity, not deja vu, not like I've been here, this situation before, but more like a sense of sort of comfortable familiarity, not like home, but like a town that you used to know and you haven't been there in a while. But, you kind of like, oh yeah, I remember this place, kind of a thing. You kind of get that feeling for the kinds of trees that are around and, the moss, the way it looks and the feel of the air and the slope of the hills. It's not your place, but, you're in the sense of like, it's not like the main part where you've been, but you have the real feeling that your people have been through here before. Because, what you know about your wayfarers, your troop, is that you had a roughly 2-year circuit, and you would travel around this something like a great loop, but not like a circle, but this kind of like from town to town, traveling, looking for different towns, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, because you were taking the party to see your friends at the town where Malcolm, your other friend, at that town, right, as a safe haven. And one of the things that you've said about them, Yoshka, is that they are, they help you, and they help your troop, and your troop helps them bring protection from the Iron Bell.
Mm-hmm.
And a part of that is I'm saying this for the audience, I'm filling in some details for you here. And a part of this is, Yoshka, that your troop makes this circuit through a pretty great circuit. It takes 2 years to do it, but you've done it a number of times. You're not like a teenager. You're older, a little bit older than that, and you're familiar with the route more or less, and when there's a river up ahead, one of the great rivers. And so this area looks like an area you've been in before, broadly speaking. You don't like recognize that stump or something like that, but you get it.
Yeah.
You rolled really high.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm definitely. So I didn't mention it, but the song I sing, I'll just sing you the first verse so you can know.
Yeah,
we can tell the listener what's in Yoshka's mind. It goes, "Mother, make a curtain of your dark hair. Make for me a nest within your lap. Father, I will face the world between your legs. You're the pillar holding up the house." And so the song is all about like his family. So as he's seeing this, he's feeling this connection between the song and the place.
Yeah, that sounds great. There's like this sort of soothing, you're feeling yourself getting soothed in a certain way from like multiple different angles or whatever. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would probably be wondering, like, did my song make me get here, or did this place
Beckon you?
trigger my song or something?
Yeah. Okay, great. So you are here, and you find yourself noticing. Give me 1 second here. Sorry, I'm just looking at.
We are not a people of the soil. Feel free to interrupt at any time. Just
Yeah.
go on.
That's good.
We are like the birds among the trees. When the tribute bell is heard a ringing, let us slip away upon the breeze.
Okay. And I was just looking for a thing that I thought I saw, but I don't. Sorry. Okay. You find a familiar looking tree. Not that the tree itself is familiar, but you recognize the kind. And it's something that, your people have used before, and it's known to be a neat thing for you. It is a what's referred to as an iron branch lemon tree. It has some wild lemons on it, and you know all about it, so you know exactly what to pick off of it. It has magical components, and I'm going to give you a set of them. And because you're very familiar with this kind of tree, you get a good haul off of it, as it were. Here is what you get. One second. You get where did it just go? No, not that one. I said ironwood lemon tree, right? There it is.
Iron branched?
Iron
Ironwood?
branch lemon tree.
Okay.
And you get 10 usable bits of bark that have healing word, a level 1 spell. And you also get 5 I'm sorry, no, I'm wrong. 10, they're on the same thing. You get also on that same bark of the iron branch lemon tree is another level 1 spell, Find Familiar.
Oh, I see.
So you got 10 of those. It has Healing Word and Find Familiar. It is. I'm going to roll to see if you have another encounter.
Well, and that's a really just going through the motions of. My dad taught me how to harp about this, so going through the motions is familiar and making me feel a little bit more comfortable in my element.
Good. So that's great. So in the distance, there's nothing, no more encounter. It's been a few hours. It's getting to be late afternoon. It's not dark yet, but it's going to be dark in the next couple of hours. In the distance, you see, you smell actually, the smell of smoke like chimneys, not like burning towns. It's getting a little bit stronger as you've been walking. The air is not cold, but it's cooler, and you've been generally trending uphill, like into a higher altitude. You see in the distance as the road bends around something it's a little bit familiar to you, not exactly, you don't think you've seen it before, but you think you might have heard of it before from one of your people, which is, at first, you're not sure what to make of it. It looks like a giant basket. And when I say that, I mean like a almost wicker basket or a woven basket made of reeds and things. But it's got to be several hundred feet around and maybe 10, 12 feet tall, and overgrown with vines and liveliness and whatever. If it's what you think it is, and you keep walking towards it, you see smoke coming up from inside the basket, not threatening, and your countenance is getting more and more soothed. You believe that you remember a description of this place. Roll me a history check.
Six.
You can't remember what it's called, but you know that... Sorry, and how old is Yoshka?
He's like 18, 19.
Okay. You don't think you've been to this town, but that you remember. Maybe when you were a kid or something. Remember, it's 2-year circuits, so even if it was 3 circuits ago, you'd be only a 10-year-old kid, right? So you don't specifically remember this town, but you think you remember people talking about it, the Basket Town. And what this is, if this is what you think it is, and you're getting more and more confident that it is, that's not a basket at all. They've made, out of bamboo and shoots and even living things, like living saplings grown just right, they've woven a wall all the way around this town, this little hamlet. To say town is generous. Your expectation from what you recall is it's a dozen little thatched roof houses encircled by this basket wall thing, and that it's generally peaceable and friendly to your troop. Your wayfarers have gone your way and stopped here sometimes. You sort of remember part of your collective lore. You yourself don't remember that. But it's a familiar sight. It's familiar to your heart, and it's the kind of thing you remember, traveling with your family and coming up to a new village that sort of seemed familiar to you. So you're getting more of that homey feel. You think, as you see it in the distance, that another 20 minutes or so of walking will take you there.
Well, I am going to pick up my pace and approach it, and in the meantime, try to remember any faces or names. Just search my memory for any specific scenes from with Basket Town.
Okay. As you approach, what you find is the road is reasonably well tended. It's not overgrown. It's not like a brick road or anything like that. It's just a well tended path in the woods. Big enough for a cart. There's no big logs in the way. They use it some. You walk forward and you see this opening, maybe a 10-foot-ish circle woven into the basket, really thick. And kind of behind it and off to the side, almost like the tree hollow that y'all used to be in, something could be rolled in and kind of locked in place for the night or something. It's getting not dark, but it's getting later. It'll be dark within an hour-ish. And leaning against the side of this circle hole is a young man, maybe a little younger than you, not really paying close attention, but as you get maybe 15, 20 feet away, he sort of scrambles up and says, and calls back over his shoulder, "Visitor, we've got a visitor!"
Oh, my name's Yoshka.
And he doesn't really say anything. He's a little awkward, but he just kind of glances over his shoulder. After not very long, a few moments, you hear a sort of thudding and like a little kind of scrabbling, and a portly, older halfling comes around the corner and exits the town, and he is looking at what you see next to you appears to be a small basket about 10 feet wide. You don't really know what to make of it, except you suddenly... Actually, you know what? Okay. And he's looking over there, and he suddenly sees you, and he goes, "Oh, well, God, another visitor, but not the same way, on the road. And he walks up to you and he says, "Hello, good sir." Ooh, and a wayfarer. We haven't seen you in a while. We get wayfarers here sometimes. We're friends of the wayfarers. The wayfarers are friends of ours. Would you like to come in? We've got some stew cooking, some other guests in town. Would you like to see?
Oh, I'd love it. Thank you.
And
And
he-
good eye. I am a wayfarer.
And he could tell by your dress, right? He's, like I said, a halfling, and so he's super short. And, he's up to your waist or something. He's half your height approximately. And he is portly and jiggly, and he chortles to himself almost constantly. And he sort of waddles on ahead of you. And as he passes by, the human boy that was tending the thing, he pats the boy's hip and says, "Good job, good job," and waddles you into town, into the door.
So and let me get this straight, a 20-foot wide basket and a 10-foot wide basket.
No, the 15 foot wide basket is just across the street from the entrance to the town. The town itself is this like several 100-foot around basket. It's like a town wall.
Oh, it's a wall. Okay.
Yeah, it's acting as a wall, but from the distance, it looked like a really huge basket sitting in the forest.
Okay, gotcha.
And there's smoke coming up, and like I said, it's thatched roof, stone wall. It's not opulent, but it seems peaceable enough, and you recognize it as the kind of place that your people have been and talked to.
Okay.
So he says, "Come on in. Welcome to the town of Miradow."
Miradow, that's the name. I almost felt like I had been here before.
And let's go back into the main chat.
Okay.
It's really interesting.
Hey,
It's pretty interesting because you can see like she is also a
Hey,
character.
what's up?
hey, everybody.
Oh, hey, Yoshka.
Yeah, we're here with Yoshka, but y'all don't see each other. You only see Jared, not Yoshka.
How's it
But it's-
going?
Is Josh
Is
here?
Robert coming?
Yeah.
Hey, he's incoming.
Nice.
Oh gosh, they
Looks
can't
like
hear
his
me.
video's just processing, maybe.
Ooh, wait.
Hey,
Hey,
is Josh here?
Josh's
He's
internet was really bad and he
trying.
has restarted his router.
Okay. I need a little bit of metadata from you about this encounter before we actually start it. You can see I've got Jared here with me. How did y'all resolve what Diamondback is going to do when Gulb and Belvari go towards the town?
Diamondback is going to take the 1 minute to get a grip on this sigil, and he's going to copy it into his book. And then, if nobody else is around, he's going to examining the structure around him. He's going to begin to break his way out of it by cutting at whatever is holding these bamboo stakes together with his knife, or
So the boy who was sitting there against the wall is back in his chair fiddling with something, a stick on the ground or something like that. He's only 15, 20 feet away. You could hear him. He could hear you easily if you wanted to, and he's sort of generally paying attention to you, like vaguely.
Okay, so I finish. Do I get a chance to finish studying the sigil?
Sure, you've got hours if you want. The guy just basically closed the door and was like, he seems to be more comfortable in here.
In that case, I if there's the boy sitting around, then I go to the door and I knock at it. I just like rattle the door a little bit to get his attention.
And he shuffles and stands up and he says, because he's a younger boy, not like a little boy, but he's a teenager. And he says, yeah, yes.
I say, do you live in this town, Miradow?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely I do.
Your gatekeeper was quite rude. He did not answer my question. I'm interested in knowing whether you have any relationship with the Iron Bell.
I'm not really the person to talk about that. I'm just a kid, kind of. But I guess everyone in the whole wide forest has some kind of relationship to the Iron Bell.
Tell me, do you enforce the rules of the Iron Bell upon people within the walls of the town of Miradau?
I don't do anything. I just watch the door.
Diamondback thinks for a little bit whether and what he's going to say.
He's about 14 years old by your estimate.
Okay.
Maybe 15.
Diamondback's not a whole lot older than this.
Yeah.
Diamondback says to him, has anybody from your town ever been arrested or killed for the crime of writing?
Writing? I'm not sure I know what exactly you mean, but sometimes bad stuff happens. We've had some sad things, some sad days.
Marks that are made on paper or wood or stone.
Lore. Yeah. The bell says you're not supposed to do lore.
If you caught somebody doing lore inside of this village, would they be turned over to the Iron Bell for punishment or sold as slaves?
Well, we would never sell somebody as a slave. I don't know what the grown-ups would do about other stuff, about lore. My mom wouldn't even let me look at loring, and I don't know what that is exactly, but we would never sell a slave. Hey, Josh.
Hey, I am back from my internet woes. My apologies for the technical interruption.
Yeah, no problem. We're catching up a little bit, and your characters don't know it, but the players may understand that stories are converging.
Diamondback says to the boy, "That's very well. I'm ready to come out of this structure now."
Oh, okay. I can't do that, but I can get Garrett. I can get Garriott. He can do it.
I don't say anything more. If he goes away and leaves me, I start taking apart the structure with my knife.
He doesn't.
To whatever extent I can.
He does what he did before, which is he kind of looks over his shoulder. Previously, he said, "We got visitors." Except this time he says, "Garriott. And after 30, 45 seconds, that same halfling kind of waddles out, and they have a short exchange that you can't quite hear. It's not like whispering. It's just, they're talking normally and they're 20-something feet away. And then he sort of makes his way over to you. He ambles, as it were, over to you and says, immediately he's already reaching for his component pouch and casting the spell, and says, "We've still got stew. Would you like some stew?" And the door falls open as before. He pulls it open and stands there waiting because, he's got to close it.
I come out of the door.
Okay.
And I ask him, "Tell me, those who practice lore within the walls of your town, are they punished?"
And he has, while you're saying that, he has closed the door, cast the same spell again. You see the same shimmering, all the normal stuff. And he hears your question and starts waddling towards the door, saying, "Stew's almost ready," and says, and he says, "Well, the Iron Bow says ain't no good to lore."
Okay. Diamondback.
Sorry, roll me an insight check.
Sure.
Because you're interrogating this guy and paying close attention to his responses, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Eesh. That's going to be a 10.
Okay. His answer was, you can tell there was subtext. That's all you can tell with a 10.
Okay. Diamondback has to figure something out for himself here. We'll see. Okay. Diamondback is going to let him go on ahead a little ways, and while standing there sort of alone-ish or away from the two for a minute, he's going to look around and try to see anything that makes him think of the Iron Bell, like if they regularly come here, or
Mhm.
if there are the hoof prints of the kinds of horses or carts that they use,
Yeah,
or any of those kinds of clues.
you don't have any meaningful sense of that. Depending on how paranoid you feel, you could make something up that you are perceiving that you might or might not be, but you don't get an actual, in fact, meaningful sense of that. While you do that, this noticing your question, Garriott, this man, this halfling, turns around and is watching you look around. He reaches into his component pouch again, rubs some components together, and makes a sort of fan with his hands. And you aren't exactly paying attention to him, but he's looking through a sort of shimmering mist at you, and he chuckles and chortles to himself, waddles over to you again, and not exactly poking your component pouch, but like in a very non-threatening way, poking you in the sort of in the hip near your component pouch. It says something like, you know, I'm a collector myself. And I'm a collector myself, and you gotta have some way of keeping track. And then he waddles away.
Diamondback grins silently into the forest, and the camera can see a something like a a great weight lifted off of his shoulders. He was stooped a little bit. You can, as he walks toward this village, his back straightens, shoulders come back a little ways, his head comes up a little more, a little bit more spring in his step as he follows this halfling into town,
Okay.
hoping to find a plate of stew and the conversation of decent people.
So that is exactly what you find: a plate of stew and a thatched little hamlet with short stone walls. There are a mix of humans and halflings. There's also an orc who lives there. We'll get to that in a minute. We're going to take our break now. When we come back, we will pick up with Yoshka, where we left off with you, Yoshka. We will pick up with you walking to where you're walking. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
10 minutes.
Perfect.
I have never once boiled a living bird. How dare you say so?
Welcome back.
Preposterous, Tosh. It's all happenstance and hearsay.
Yep. Welcome back. This is The Dying of the Light, Season 3 of the Starfall Collective. We will not do another introduction right now because you have been waiting with bated breath for us to return. So, we are picking up, and we're going to start with Yoshka coming in. Yoshka, you are here, and with this portly halfling, older halfling, you can tell he's something like middle-aged, approximately.
Okay.
And but he's a short halfling guy. So he welcomes you in. Yes, let's go get some stew. We've got some stew and some visitors here. It's a busy day in Miradau. And he takes you through, and the town is arranged roughly in a circle around on the inside, around the basket wall, as it were. The houses are approximately centered so that there's a dozen-ish houses with a ring of common area in the middle that seems to be something like a garden, tended, pretty well tended. It's nice. Then there's a stone house, and the houses are not mortared. They're stacked stone. They could be river stone or some other kind of stone with thatched roofs on top. Some of them are bigger. They look human-sized. Some of them are smaller, look halfling-sized. And, there's a little variety of things. Behind each town, or I should say between each, not each town, each house, between each house and the wall is maybe 50, 60 feet of something. For example, as you can kind of glance over and see that behind, quote unquote, or outside of the house, right, like towards the wall, on one house is some patches of farm where there's some gardening happening. There's a human couple living there with a couple of kids. You can see them running around doing stuff in the little farming bits. There's another house that you can see that doesn't have, it has nothing much behind it, but it does have a little bit of a shed that you don't know what's in. There's one place where you can see some tools and equipment that look like they could be leather working or something like that. And there's other kinds of things like that around. So each house seems to have its own whatever they're doing behind the house. And then this common area in the middle that's kind of a almost like a sort of low-key piazza where they can hang out and do stuff. And there's, it's a well-tended little garden with some stone walls and stone floor and stuff. Yoshka, as he takes you in towards the center of town, you see in this gardenish area, there's some nice little hedges and stuff. And sitting at a table, it's about 5 p.m. So it's not dark yet, but it's going to get there soon. You're just starting to get some lightning bugs, but there's a table not quite in the center, it's off to the side a little bit, and sitting around the table are several townsfolk chatting, having some drinks with Diamondback, Gulb, and Belvari.
I am stunned, and I stop following him for a moment. If he doesn't notice, after a moment, I'll just keep back at it.
He continues talking and chortling. He glances behind himself at you, not like no message or anything. He's just sees you there, and he keeps on walking and says, "Come on, let's go have some stew."
How many minutes has Gulb had at table where there has been food and wine available?
You all have been there for several hours in the town chatting.
At this point, Gulb has 3 halfling children hanging off of one arm And with the other hand that's free, he's got some guy by the shoulder, and he's kind of rocking him back and forth in large, not violent, but large motions, saying,
And you should have met my friend. He had such a smile, such a laugh from the belly. And I feel I will never see him again.
and he's kind of just swinging the kids while he's saying this.
Sitting near you, and you've been talking to him a fair bit, Gulb, is an orc named Alarat, and he's got a human wife in this town. They are together, a lumberjack and a lumberjill, and they have 4 kids, half orcs, ages 2 through 9. They have become friends with you because there are not a lot of orcs that pass through, and so you and he are chatting and having steins or perhaps small barrels of ale or something, cider.
I think Gulb is very curious to know whether or not they follow the storm god.
We can figure that out, but Yoshka is the one coming up right now, and you see Belvari, Diamondback, and Gulb seemingly clearly alive, seemingly very well, and are have been hosted well by this group.
Well, I say to the halfling in surprise, my friends, what? They're not all dead. And then I guess I go straight over. I'm imagining once there's not too much distance, I go straight over to them and say, How did
Gold
you?
says, no, we're drunk.
Go ahead.
How did you survive? What? The forest swallowed you.
And we got put out in a good place. These are good friends. You've come to a good place with all of us. We drink.
And he puts some stuff into Yoshka's hand. He takes his cup and puts it in Yoshka's hand.
The Diamondback has some questions which I think probably would have been answered by this point.
Give me a couple of them real quick, like urgent ones that you're interested in.
Sure. Why were we teleported here by bandits who attacked us?
Mm-hmm.
And yet you are nice, whereas the Dryads were cruel and assaulted us for no reason.
The basic response you have gotten to that is, and by the way, the reason I'm taking a break for this, Yoshka, Gulb, etc., is because this is going to set Diamondback's perception of what's happening, right, and what his mood and his current temperament are. So the response to that you would have basically gotten to that is whether or not it makes sense to you. This is their account. Is the town more or less has formed over the past 50 years or so by people who happen to wander through what they refer to as the sacred grove, and the Dryads have just, whenever somebody wanders through, they send them to that circle over there. That happened a few times. They decided to build a town. The town has kind of crept up, and sometimes some unsavory characters came through the portal. So they built that little cage around it. That was actually Garriot's doing. He led them to build that little cage and put a ward on it, magical lock on it. And but they basically are people who have at various times had no home or something like that, and ended up, since there was a place here, and what they perceive, though, Diamondback, you may not agree, or maybe you don't even know what they're talking about, what they perceive as their forest sort of benevolent beneficiaries put them into a very pleasant environment by sending them to this place, which is somewhat away from the grove, and they've just built a little town here, and that's it.
Do they have much? Diamondback would want to try and figure out whether they have much commerce or contact with the dryads in their day-to-day lives?
Roll
Do they
a.
actually know that the dryads are benevolent?
First, roll me an insight check.
Awesome. 19 plus 4 is 23.
You
It's the
can
second
tell.
23 insight check I've gotten.
Yeah, that's great. You can absolutely tell that Garriott, that everybody here is what they seem to be. Ralden is a beet farmer. Urella is a widow. Various people, right? Except Garriott, the halfling who greeted you and who whatever. There is something more to him than meets the eye. And here's a couple of things you, Diamondback, know about him. One, he has got your number. You don't even know what that means, but you know that this guy has you something like outclassed. Not in a bad way. And the way you know, the feeling you have about him is you get the impression he's like one of the Snake Clan masters. Like, he knows what's going on around him, and he's not messing with you. He doesn't seem to have anything underhanded or anything like that, but nothing, as far as you can tell, Diamondback, nothing escapes his notice, and he's giving you answers that are giving you all the answer you need, and also, like, he's, you know what I'm saying. He's a wise 60-year-old answering a young whatever, and he knows what he's talking about. As far as every time you've asked him about components, magic, the forest, the whatever, he's got his finger on the pulse, whether or not he tells you all of that. Okay, so that's your insight into him. His answer about their interactions with the forest bandits, as you say, is they don't really have any meaningful relationship except that they're always friendly. They rarely go to the Sacred Grove. Once in a while, if somebody's really sick, they'll go to the Sacred Grove and they petition for healing and they get it. But that's about the relationship. Once or twice a year.
Okay.
So, Yoshka, let's pick up with you. Now that we know something, now that Diamondback knows what disposition, or Matt knows what disposition Diamondback has.
Well, Yoshka would probably first be following the halfling, offering him, say, I'm happy to work if you have a place that I can. I'm happy to work for my food, and if you're willing to take me in your walls, I'm happy to make sure it's worth your while. I'm a musician. If you have a violin, I'd be happy to play for everybody tonight.
And he talks, and he lets you talk and finish what you're saying. And he says, well, why don't you have some stew first, and we'll just have dinner, and I'll just tell you, it's worth my while you being here, not because you're playing some instrument, but because you're being here.
Wow. Thank you.
We broke through Mr. Rogers' front wall and brushed the drywall off, and Mr. Rogers hugged us. That's awesome.
Now, it's starting to get a little bit dark, and Yoshka, you can totally play. And I'll have him say, I'll do it in his voice. And Gary says, now about your playing and singing, we sure would love to hear you play and sing. We like all your people whenever you come and you put on a show, but we won't have you playing or singing for food or sleep. You play and sing if you want to play and sing.
Gulp's like,
He's very good. Very good. My friend is the best musician here.
and he thumps his chest really hard.
He
And
says,
if some kid cries, he's like,
Oh, sorry. No. Sorry.
and he says, you play if you want to play, you sing if you want to sing, you eat if you want to eat, and you sleep if you want to sleep. Now, we got some accommodations, but we're pretty full up. I'm sure some of us can put you someplace and he indicates to he kind of nods over towards Alaret, the orc, indicating they probably have a space bigger for Gulb. And there's various ones of you who could go stay somewhere, or you could stay together. You can work that out. He says,
Gulb leans down and says,
Do you have hay?
and
Say stuff that you can.
yeah, and that gets worked out as in the conversations with various people. But Alaret, who's the big orc guy, he's the only orc who lives there. Also, there's Gevel, who's the town guard leader. Gevel is a half orc. But the two, Gevel and Alaret, go with Garriott to the front door of the place, and they roll this big wicker-like, it's almost like a dish or shield or something, to fill the 12-foot hole in the wall, right? It's bigger by several feet. And you see Garriott do some more componentry and some warding on the outside of the... on the inside of the basket, shimmers around, and he's not making a show of it at all. He's just doing his business while y'all are eating, but he's basically closing the windows for the night, as it were. Not windows, literally, the front gate and whatever. They have plenty of light. It's well lit. It's open sky. It's open air above them, the town. But they keep it well lit. There are hanging lanterns in the hanging from the trees. That it's not dark anywhere in the town. Not meaningfully dark. It's nighttime. But they welcome you to sleep. They welcome you to rest. But they do not seem to be going to sleep yet, even though it's night.
Diamondback asks his friends Yoshka, Gulb, and Belvari who's going to take the first watch.
Gulb walks over to Diamondback and kind of takes him by the shoulder and tries to, he's not trying to shove him or manhandle him or anything, but he's trying to, generally with body language portray, come in with me, come closer. He's like,
These people gave us food and drink. I do not think anyone will slit our throats. And if they all want to, what are we gonna do? Kill them all? Just sleep, man.
he kind of punches him in the chest.
Have you seen that meme where it's from Star Wars and the lady says, "What are you going to do? Kill them all?" And he's quiet for a beat, and then she says again, "What are you going to do? Kill them all?"
Yeah.
That's there's that exact beat of quietness where he says, "What are you going to do? Kill them all?"
Yeah.
Get some sleep, man.
And he punches him on the chest.
So before it's late, but I mean it's not late. It's just after dark, and Diamondback is keenly aware that we've all got a chicken duck woman thing waiting for us. But I don't know if y'all know that reference. That's a song. I'll send it to you.
I've been dating chicken fried girlfriend for a long time.
Not that one. So that was neither racist nor offensive, and anyone who's offended ought to be ashamed. So that said, it was good, Josh. That said, Garriott takes several of y'all aside, not aside, but just he's talking to you, and he talks mainly to Diamondback, but the rest of you are there, and he says, I gotta tell you, let's definitely let you have a night's sleep, but there's two things that I would really enjoy doing with you folks. Having you folks. One, I could definitely have you folks helping us out with something. And two, something we could do, which is, I have told your friend, so this young snake man here, that I'm something of a collector of magical components and whatnot. And if y'all would like to trade or getting, we could do it. We could I could show you some of the stuff that I have. You could show me some of the stuff you have. We can trade, get some stuff we need from each other, because I don't honestly go out too much anymore into there. But when we have visitors, why, make a good trade. Then I can get more stuff of the kinds I like, and you can get more stuff of the kinds you like. And I got a good collection. And number 2, I don't know if y'all met, but Urella, and he points over to a halfling woman who's, you would guess, in the neighborhood of his age or older, maybe in human terms like 75, 80 years old. Like, she's not frail, but she's older. He says, now Urella, she's a widow. She's a good lady. She's the one that tends to all these gardens here. And he points around to the garden. It's really well tended, and she does, there's no weeds in sight, and the flowers are nice. Well, her grandson, Orden, bless his heart, he's gone missing. And I know where he is, and he's in some trouble. And honestly, we could use some help getting him back, because Urella, her heart can't take it if he's gone for good. We can talk about it in the morning if you like, but I would certainly love to have your folks help with that. And I know how it is. This forest ain't friendly all the time to everybody, he says, clearly understating. And I make it worth your while. I'll help you out. Now, the town ain't quite big enough for you to stay here, but you can stay here the night, of course, and we'll send you on your way. And if you could help us get Orden back, help us make Urella's heart happy, why, there's 2 things I could give you. 2 things. And he looks up at you, Yoshka, and he says, looks at everybody, and he says, the first one is, I've got some magics. And everybody loves magics. And I'm not talking about components. I'm talking about real magics. And I'd be happy to give you some out of my collection. It's not a great collection, but it's a collection. Because Orden, he's a sweet boy, and we need him back. And the other thing, Yoshka, you was telling us all about where you guys are going. And Yoshka, what did you tell Garriott about where you all are headed on your travels?
Well, I think I was pretty fairly open with him, and said, like, a year or 2 ago, I got separated from my family, and it's been a long time coming back, and I met these folks who were trying to find where on the circuit my extended family is.
And where are you going right now? Have you talked to him about that? Because you've had a destination in mind.
First I was just trying to get back into the general region that I'm familiar with, and then based on whatever towns we came across, just ask them how long ago they had wayfarers come across, and then based on my knowledge of the circuit, continue from there.
So he tells you, now your folks have been around here, but we ain't seen them in a good year. So I figure it'll be another year before we see them again. I don't know where they are, but you know how it is. And he clearly is acquainted with your troop, right? Like, he knows of you. And he walks over a little bit to a place on the garden, and there's this barrel that it's like a almost out of place barrel, and he slaps it. You, Yoshka, recognize this barrel. And he says to you, in subtle tones, and I'm going to tell you what he says, but actually, Yoshka, roll me please some, let's make it Well, let me ask. I'll say he says to you in subtle tones, "This barrel here, this is one that your folks brought us. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's been a great help."
I think so. Good.
Well, I'll tell you, I understood what you were saying, and I know where them. And he leans closer, and he's not really whispering well. Your party can hear you, but nobody else. He says, "I can give you directions to your sorcerer kin." He's very plain spoken about that part. He says, "The town ain't too far. I'll be happy to give you directions."
Thank you.
So, and what he's asking for is helping them get Orden back. He'll tell you all about that if you're willing. And in exchange, he has what he calls some real magics and directions to the town.
Yes, so Diamondback has a torch lit,
Mm-hmm.
and he's in the act of lighting another one to pass to Gulb. And he says to Garriott, "The dangers of the night. Do not wait until morning. Tell me, what is your plan to rescue the boy?"
And he says,
Gulb
go
just
now.
reaches over to people and picks up his warhammer that's like in some random corner of the party and just picks it up over everybody's heads and misses the first time, and the second time gets it down into his holster. Sorry, go ahead. And he's like,
yeah.
"Ugh."
And Belvari, are you still present in the town? Did you leave before they closed it or anything?
No, I'm here. Belvari is just sipping a drink and listening to all
Okay.
the happenings.
And hearing you say that, Diamondback, Garriott says, "Well, I'll tell you, but it's not always great to do business in front of everyone. Why don't y'all come to my place? We could maybe see if we got some trades, or do it in the morning, whatever. But why don't you come to my place and we'll sit down inside where it's safe in the stone walls, and then you won't feel all worried. Does that sound good?"
Who is in danger?
Gulb looks over
Yes.
to Diamondback. He's like,
Did Wilfari run out the gate?
Diamondback is puzzled because in
Where's
his
Belvari?
experience-
Did he run away?
Belvari's right there.
Oh.
Belvari is right there.
He didn't run away.
Garriott,
Yeah.
the dangers of the forest, as I am sure you are aware, are often quick and immediately deadly. A friend can be sleeping next to you 1 second, and 12 seconds later be gone forever. If you have a child who's missing, let us go now.
And he says, Garriott says, "I understand, young man. I understand what you're saying. The child's missing, but he's not in immediate danger. Let me explain. Come on into my house." And he motions you towards a house. It's
Gulb has a quick moment with Diamondback where he grunts and kind of exhales, and you see his shoulders fall. And he reaches out and he grabs Diamondback by the wrist, which he's a friend, so he doesn't do it in a "I'm going to jump you" kind of way. He just reaches out and takes Diamondback's wrist, turns it over, and looks at the place where he wrote the sigil on his wrist. And he sees that it's entirely smudged. It's completely it's unrecognizably gone. And he says,
You are a rider in the storm. Not the gentle rain.
and he just kind of snorts and blows air out, kind of snorts and turns and kind of is led by the halfling guy.
Yeah, Diamondback will go with Garriott as well.
So Alarat, who's the orc, the other orc of the town, comes, and there's basically no way that Garriott, who's a halfling, can interact with Gulb in any like he's so tiny compared to Gulb. But Alaric comes and sees what's going on, helps him, and he helps Gulb find a nice soft hay pile in under a covered kind of like not a barn, but you know those like open stall barn kind of things where animals could eat. And he offers to Gulb to let him sleep there, which is totally comfortable and warm and fine.
You see him like kind of exhale, and it like the way that someone would getting into a hot bath. You know, he's overwhelmed and ecstatic at this luxury.
So Gulb can sink into that, and it's like it's if you go to sleep right now, Gulb, and you sleep off your alcohol, you'll get a long rest.
Yeah, a Gulb starts like taking some of the hay out and starts like kind of scrunching it and balling it up and starts kind of fluffing up a layer over layer over layer. And he kind of lays down on that, and you hear him. And he's snoring pretty soon thereafter.
Good. Okay. Diamondback,
loud.
are you going to follow Garriott to his house? It's a human-looking house, but he's a halfling going into it. So, I mean, human in size, Is that cool with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yoshka, are you going to go with Diamondback and Garriott, who seems to be inviting all of you except for Gulb, who's kind of passed out?
Yoshka's in a pickle because he wanted to talk to Diamondback before something like this. So he will say,
I mean, we can, if Diamondback senses that Yoshka wants to have a word with him, he'll let the halfling go on ahead so we can chat.
Yeah. Garriott doesn't mind that at all, and he says, well, here I am. Just come knock on the door when you're ready. I got a place for each of you guys to sleep, except for the big feller. And, I got a bed for you to sleep in or whatever. So let me know when you're ready. We can talk or chat inside and hopefully trade some stuff. And he goes in and maybe half closes the door. It's still open, as an invitation.
Mr. Rogers is trying to equip you with the Desert Eagle .50.
and I say, listen, the old blood always says to be first to apologize, so I am sorry I pushed you. I thought we were all going to die, and now that we're here, we need to sort things out. I am not a warrior, and perhaps you are. We are few and young and poor and weak. I do not think we are warriors. Your people were warriors. Sleen was a warrior, but I am not a warrior. No, not right now. I am a survivor, and I cannot afford to travel with warriors right now. You were a warrior, but somehow you have been spared. I think I cannot travel with a warrior and take a warrior to my people. So you have been a warrior, and now I need to know what you will be. You need to choose. Are you going to be a warrior or a survivor? You can take some time to think, and you don't have to say anything. But look, this is my region. I know this area. If you want to be a survivor, you don't have to say anything. Just put on a shirt.
um, Diamondback. Diamondback says, "I admit, I do not know the ways of this place. You may have more information than I. And yet, allow me to correct you on one point. I am, as my clan is, I am neither a warrior nor a survivor. I am an assassin."
This makes no difference to me. All I know is you are not a snake. A snake is dangerous because it waits in the grass and it chooses its prey. But you are like a young rooster with no hens yet. You must fight everything. I can't be with you like this. I can't travel with you like this. Take some time to think. And then I suppose I turn away and go find a place to sleep.
I go to follow Garriott.
Yoshka, when you go to find a place to sleep, do you go to Garriott's house where he's invited you and there's a bed, or do you go somewhere else?
Oh, that's where I'm going to sleep. In Garrett's house?
He invited you and he left the door open and said, "Come find me when you're ready," because he knew y'all wanted to talk.
Guys, I am salivating to do the player's DM commentary track for this episode. Salivating.
Okay. Well, if that's where I was going to sleep, yeah, I guess I'll go in there.
All right. Belvari, Diamondback and Yoshka have had some kind of exchange. I don't know if you were listening closely or not, but they have
It
gone...
was so loud.
What's that?
It was so loud.
Okay.
I don't know how I couldn't have heard it.
So they went into Garriott's house. Gulb is now passed out in some hay, seemingly fine. There's like a donkey and a couple of pigs cuddled up with him. What do you want to do? You've been invited also to sleep in Garriott's stone house, thatch roof. He says there's a bed.
Yeah, Belvario will go. He's probably at like 51% alertness for danger. He's pretty, he thinks this is a pretty safe place.
Okay.
Gulb is likely spooning the largest pig.
Okay. So,
Great for the commentary track.
that's right. So you come in. Garriott has. It's probably 9 p.m. now. Say, if y'all go to sleep in the next hour, y'all have been chatting since nightfall. It's been well lit. If y'all go to sleep in the next hour, you'll get a long rest. I mean, by dawn, you'll get a long rest. You can also sleep into the morning. I mean, who cares, right? Maybe they care, maybe they don't. Garriott greets you and shows you a couple of places. There's one main room that you walk into, a little stone doorway that goes off in one direction to like a small little room. Again, it's like a 3-room house, right? A little small doorway that goes off in one direction, a little small doorway that goes off a different direction, and he shows you into one room, and it's got some basic hospitality nice for this little hamlet. It's a straw bed and a wash basin and some stuff like that. And the other room has a wooden door on it. You can't see into there. And the main room that you're in has a hearth and a little bit of a fire in there, a candle on the table. And he tells you to make yourselves at home. If you need some water, he's got a bucket from a well that is sitting on the counter that's been drawn recently. Indicates there's some beds in there and a bit of straw that he has brought in that's laying in the corner in one part of the house. He wasn't expecting 3 people to be staying in his house. And he says, to any of you who are interested, I understand if you guys are tired. You have a rest. We can talk in the morning. Of course, feel free. If any of you would like to get to trading a little, I'd be happy to do that too.
Thank you. And I look for probably the worst bed and say, it's been a long day for me. I think I'll turn in.
Yeah, okay. And there it's like, normal wooden hay beds. One may be slightly worse than the other. You can pick one, and one of them is a pile of hay on the floor that's, cushy. You wrap your coat around yourself or whatever. Belvari, what are you going to do?
Belvari will, he's interested by the option to trade and will peruse the wares.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, well, actually, initially he will reach into his component pouch and pull out a piece of sweet leaf willow wood and be like, show it to the guy and be like, this is probably good. You'd probably like this.
Okay. And Diamondback and Belvari, roll me a perception check.
Oh. 4.
Okay.
18.
Diamondback, you don't notice anything about any of this, what I'm about to say, but
Yeah.
Belvari, you do. Having a surplus of caution, you notice that every time anybody reaches for their component pouch, Garriott's fingers are in his component pouch, and depending on what you pull out, which so far, every time he's pulled his hand back out of his component pouch with nothing in his hand, he hasn't pulled any components, but it appears to you that he's something like defensively ready, in case you were to pull out something dangerous, that he would be able to respond quickly. He doesn't seem to be threatening, but he seems to be, mindful of danger. He doesn't know y'all super well. But, again, not threatening. You just noticed when you reached in to do it, he also stuck a couple of fingers in his pouch, and then when you pulled something out and he saw it, he just pulled his hand out of his pouch. Super subtle. Diamondback didn't notice it. Belvari did. What did you pull out, Belvari?
It was sweet leaf willow wood, one piece.
Okay.
It has a lot of
I see that.
on it.
That's good. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm looking at your pouch so I can see it too. And you see him not it's sort of that same chortle that he does, but this one seems to have honest, kind of both glee and he's like impressed and is like, oh, I recognize that, and he is kind of happy about that, and he says. And just to let you all know, we're not going to finish this right now because it's late. We're going to finish the episode, but I'm going to set the tone for what's going to happen when we pick up next episode. And he says, why don't you boys, and he points Diamondback to your pouch, not invasively or offensively. He just is clearly indicating that he knows you're a collector and so forth. And he's recognizing and acknowledging Belvari's, what Belvari has pulled out is something of value. And he says, why don't you boys come in here to my study? And he indicates the wooden door that's closed. And what he does is he reaches into his pouch. He walks over to the door. He reaches into his pouch and he does something with components that you can't see. And he puts his fingers, like his index finger from each hand, and he draws a complex path on the door with each of his fingers making a very involved set of symbols that, not symbols, but paths on the door. And there's nothing you can see happening. As far as you can tell, he's just dragging his fingers in very precise and meaningless paths. And then you hear in the distance, click, 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 click. And it's a lot of like little sharp clicks. And then the door kind of creaks open. And he said, and he pulls the door. It swings inward, and he pulls the door, and he says, you can see a kind of, nice warm golden light shining through the door, and he says, "Right this way, young man." And that's where we'll stop the episode. Josh, you're muted. Still muted.
As if the camera pans over Gulb while he's laying on the straw, you see him kind of like, his head kind of lifts up and he starts,
by sheer coincidence, the camera also pans over Yoshka, and it's the exact same thing.
Right. Singing the same song.
That's right. So that's where we'll end. We will pick up next time with Yoshka sleeping, Gulb sleeping in the night. Diamondback and Belvari will take a look at what Garriot's study looks like, and they can both tell that this guy, is the real deal, for whatever that means. So, thank you, everybody. I appreciate your kind... Yep, sorry, Belvari. Dwight?
Is there experience?
Yes. That is a good point. I'll do experience for the past 2 episodes.
Yes, please.
Not 3? 2? Okay. 2.
I thought I was fighting some dryads, but I guess we didn't win that encounter, so maybe no XP there.
Oh, we resolved it one way or the other. Some would say that's still earning XP.
Any successful resolution earns XP. Give me 1 sec. I have your... sorry, I have it written down. Well, it's not written down. It's in D&D Beyond, so give me just a sec.
Well, also, real quick note that Belvari doesn't particularly care about this, but he's sort of astonished that he listened to this all these hours and nobody mentioned Davina at all.
Oh, I think he was in the middle of talking about Davina before he was talking about Yoshka. That's a good point. I think Gulb was really drunk, so that's what I'm going to pin it on for Gulb.
I totally would have asked. I thought we were just... I mixed it up with her just not being here.
Yeah.
But that would be like she's like dead or something.
Let's bring that into the next thing where we can do a retcon and you can say this is the conversation we had yesterday at dinner or whatever.
Cool.
Let's see. So here's what we've got. Sorry, give me a second here. Where did my tab go? Dang it. That's not it. That's the other thing. Here we go. 3, 6, 2, and Diamondback.
Remember how Diamondback got one of the dryads to go away by offering it, by making an offering to it.
I do remember. Diamondback, you have 220 experience. That's an accumulation of both tonight and basically the entire time since you left that little stone hut. right?
Okay.
Which was right before the Dryads. And I can, if y'all want, if you're interested, I can detail what exactly those were about.
No, don't worry about it. But
Okay.
note that the first thing we should do next episode, or something early, since we're having a long rest,
That's right.
is roll XP for Diamondback for his level 3.
There you go.
I'm sorry, roll Diamondback's level 3
HP.
hit points.
Hit points, yeah.
It's an important role.
Gulb, you also have 200 experience points.
Okay.
Belvari, you have 310.
I should also roll my hit die after a long rest.
After the long rest. And Yoshka, you have 270.
I am just shy of halfway to level 3.
That's cool.
Yeah, you're also the newest member of the party, which is great. You know, it's progress.
Hot on your heels, baby. Hot on your heels. I'm coming for you.
So next time we will, and by the way, just to say real quickly, I like granting experience in part for solid non-combat interactions with, you know, the world, NPC, whatever. Combat too, right? I like doing combat, but it's, for me, combat's not the only primary way of getting experience. It's creating playing your characters really truly is valuable to me. So just telling you. And y'all have been doing a fantastic job. All of y'all have been true to your characters, which I've been really pleased with. And thanks.
Hey, Sir Robert, can we give a 2d6 times 10 roleplay bonus to the elected party member of the night? Because I want to nominate Jared for that award, because I think he should get some kind of Oscar with an XP bonus for the moment where he took Diamondback by the shoulders and said, "Now, son, you're going to have to choose the path of righteousness or evil. And I hope you're going to choose righteousness, because I sure do love you. And I want you to get to stay in the youth group."
Whoa.
I agree-ish. And actually, Yoshka, I actually gave you experience specifically for that part, but also, hold on, give me a second here. You know what? This whole Dryad encounter, this whole Miradao, y'all have just done a terrific job interpreting and misinterpreting what's going on. I love it.
Nice.
So, all four of y'all take inspiration.
Okay. See, that's okay.
What?
I was gonna say, some DMs kind of, they call that a plot arc XP bonus. There are XP bonuses that happen at certain landmark events.
Sure. Y'all each
that
just
mark
got
the
several
relationship
hundred
between
experience.
a demon and a party.
Y'all each just got several hundred experience at level 2. No, I definitely gave y'all experience for the really good roleplay. That's terrific. Yeah. I'll also tell you, just for fun, since we're at the end of the episode, I'll tell you some DM commentaries. That sound all right? A little tiny bit?
Yeah,
please.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that Jacob asked me, how did it go? How did D&D go after last week? And I said, 2 people lost consciousness, and 1 person was rolling death saves, fighting an enemy who the entire time did them no harm. That was great. I love that. Not 1 hit point of damage to any of you, and you did such a great job playing it. Matt,
I have a hit point of damage.
You were on point, Matt. What'd you say?
I have a hit point of damage. It's because
the
I ate
poison
those
berry.
berries.
That's right.
So did I.
The-
I was like, wait a minute, I had a hit point of damage. You son of a.
The only damage any of you took from the
Dryads didn't feed you those berries.
That's right. The only damage anybody took from those dryads was Diamondback's component pouch with which he shot them has a small hole in it. Anyway, I think that was great, and y'all did a fantastic job. I really was delighted with that. So thanks. That's inspiration. It's inspirational to me, so it's inspiration for you.
So now, until Diamondback notices the hole in his pouch, are you just going to roll a d20 without telling us? And if it comes up 1, oh, I'm sorry, Diamondback.
Oh, Diamondback,
buddy.
Diamondback knew it.
His pouch.
Yeah.
Diamondback knows everything that's going on with that. He's mended it already.
Well, it sounds like you know your patch about as well as most men should know their prostate to make sure they avoid prostate cancer.
Okay.
Check yourself regularly.
So
Is that on the stream? Did you say that on the stream?
it is.
Don't
but-
talk about prostate cancer on our streams. What are you...
Don't worry, I'll duplicate it in post.
No, leave it in. I want that on
Dun,
the
dun,
record.
dun, 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 dun. Here, remix.
So
Aaron's out for 1 week, and we're making prostate cancer jokes.
and by the way, Erin might be out for 2 or 3 weeks. She's thinking about taking. She likes taking road trips, and she's thinking about taking. Hold on.